For more analysis, we're now joined by Laurie Coxon, Professor of Political Science at Chapman University. Well, Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Let's get to the million-dollar question. Can Kamala Harris beat Trump? What's your take?
Well, first, thanks for having me. And yes, I do believe Harris can win. It's not going to be easy and it's not going to be a sure thing right now. And she has a lot of work to do. But today was a very impressive day. Once Biden announced that he was stepping aside and then endorsed Harris, the fundraising for her today has just been phenomenal, record breaking for the Democratic Party, as well as the total number of Democrats that have come out and endorsed her, backed her campaign. So it feels like that this is going to be resolved within a few days. I think the DNC has indicated that they are going to do the virtual vote among the delegates, so she could be the official nominee by the end of this week. And I think that she brings a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the campaign that was quite frankly missing with Biden and all of the angst over his age and his performance in that, quite frankly, disastrous debate 3.5 weeks ago.
Well, you spoke about Kamala Harris's energy that she brought to the table. Now, Kamala Harris has both supporters and critics being the vice president and of course, possibly the Democratic presidential nominee. How would her track record help or even perhaps hinder her?
Well, it's going to be a challenge, and not only as a woman candidate. We've seen one nominee for president who is a woman, Hillary Clinton, 8 years ago, but women still face unique challenges in running for the presidency. Kamala Harris will be the first woman of color to be nominated for a major party, and it will be historic, but you can expect that the Trump campaign is going to, very quickly start very negative attacks against her I suspect they will be somewhat racist and sexist, and that will be a very difficult thing for the campaign to overcome, but the campaign can overcome it. And look, she will not have the exact same coalition that Joe Biden would have had he continued his campaign, but she puts a lot of other things into play. The Black voters, particularly Black women, are so loyal to the Democratic Party. And so she really shores that up at a time when polls were starting to show that Biden was really slipping. And that's an important constituency. She can also reach out to independent voters. Some polls have already showed that she does much better among independent voters than Biden was doing. And let's not forget young voters. Suddenly they have a choice, and that isn't just an 81-year-old incumbent and a 78-year-old former president. So I think that like I said, there's a lot of enthusiasm that's about to come her way for this campaign. On the other hand, she also, like you said in the lead up to this, she owns the successes, but also the failures of the Biden administration. Joe Biden has been a consequential president and has had a very successful legislative agenda. But there's a lot yet to be resolved, certainly in the Middle East and with the war in Ukraine. So on the international front, and the economy still, is doing pretty well by the numbers, but a lot of people still aren't feeling that. So she's going to have to address all of those issues, and she's going to have to start doing it very quickly.
Well, our correspondent just earlier shared that Kamala Harris may not really be liked within her own party. And if that's the case, how then would the Democrats decide on their new presidential nominee? Then will Kamala Harris still stand a chance, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that the way the party is coalesced around her today, that any concerns that some people may have about her are probably going to disappear very quickly. Democrats are united in beating Donald Trump. And I think that she does show a much more viable path to that victory than Joe Biden did in the last few weeks or even over the last several months. Her popularity is not much higher than Biden's, and so that's a challenge. But I'm not sure that anyone at the national level is going to be seen as popular right now. I mean, we've had these presidential campaigns for the last few cycles where the candidates just aren't that popular. But that's where she starts, and she has nowhere to go but up. And you got the feeling that Joe Biden just couldn't improve where he was, and I think that's one of the factors that led to him deciding to step aside and drop out of the race today.
Well, Professor, one last question before we let you go. Trump's numbers are slightly worse than they were before Biden pulled out of the race. And with a new Democratic nominee name, do you think the Democrats have a chance, especially since Trump may not really be seeing the win coming towards him as the way he saw earlier?
Yeah, I think this is a really good day for Democrats overall, and probably not a very good day for the Trump campaign because their strategy has just been thrown out the window. They've been planning to run against Joe Biden, and now they have to pivot very quickly to figure out how to go up against Kamala Harris. She's a former prosecutor, was a former attorney general in my state of California. You know, she spent 4 years in the Senate before she became vice president. She's going to be able to effectively prosecute this case against Donald Trump. And the stark contrast between the two of them, if they do debate, it's not going to look anything like the Biden-Trump debate from a few weeks ago. And so I also think that in the last few weeks, she has really been a bright light for Democrats, seeing how she has handled all of this, chaos after the debate 3.5 weeks ago. She has done incredibly well in her public appearances. And I think that a lot of people who maybe weren't so sure about her are, relying on those last few weeks thinking, okay, maybe she is better than we thought. And I think she's very talented. She's a very strong, smart woman. And I think that's going to become clear very quickly.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. That was Laurie Coxon, Professor of Political Science at Chapman University.